So hey guys, my name is Lohpally. Welcome to another video, and today we're going to be going over the preseason changes for 2021, where we're most notably going over the blog post that RIOT has released over the champion class item goals. So this will be me kind of going over what I think about like the directions and kind of giving my commentary and thoughts on everything. You see the trailer for TFT Set 4? No, not. I think I did. I think I actually did. Okay. So let's jump into this though. So first notable thing is stats and effects. Healing and grievous wounds. Healing has become more prevalent in the game over the past years, and we like to address a few problems. Really, you think so? Okay. So healing has become more common. That grievous wounds has gone from a contextual choice meant for heavy healing team compositions to viable almost every game. Yeah, I mean that's what happened when you introduced Conqueror. So, I mean, that's not very surprising. We're looking across the runes, items, and champion clits to trim some of the healing where it's unnecessary. Sure, I mean, that's like a really easy talking point. If we just pull up the runes right now, right? Let me go to, I think it's collection, yeah. So if we just go to runes right here, it's pretty obvious that, like, almost every rune page has healing. So, rune page right here. For this, we have Fleet Footwork, which I don't think needs healing reduction, but like just to kind of overlap a lot of the healing and kind of show you how many things there are for healing. I mean, we have Conquer, which is the most common healing thing, which is your abilities that you do damage with, and your auto attacks are all healing. Fleet Footwork. We go to the next tree. We have Overhealing and Triumph, which are healing. We have Legends Bloodline that's healing. And then there's no healing in that. So just in the precision tree alone, like there's potential for 3 stacking healing effects. After that, another thing to note too is Domination is actually like a pretty common secondary page whenever people want to have like healing and sustain in lane because of Taste of Blood. But also we have our own version of mini gunblade, I guess you'd say, spell vamp right here with Ravenous Hunter also, which is quite powerful. Like, it was pretty common when Aatrox was a super common pick to play, that, like, I would see a page like this, where, like, it would be, Ravenous Hunter, Taste of Blood, Triumph, Conqueror. Like, there's 4 or 5 archetypes of healing just here before we even get into items. So, yeah, I mean, in general, like, I think that if you want to remove healing or, like, dampen it a lot, I think Triumph is fine healing. Legends Bloodline's probably okay-ish. And Taste of Blood is fine, but I think in general having spells that heal you is just not good for the game. I think that's what's unique about like spellcasters is they're stronger in the early game because they have like CC and utility, and so having healing attached between Conqueror and Ravenous Hunter is super unhealthy. Those are the places I would trim instantly. Like those are easy, trim the fat, like make sure healing isn't like part of the game as much right there. And then Death Stance is probably your easiest talking point when it comes to itemization. On top of that, grievous wounds can sometimes feel underpowered when trying to stop a very strong healer. Well, that's just because there's so many sources of healing. It's not actually because of the healing kit. It's all the extra things that compound on it. We're looking to make grievous wounds a sharper effect. The more effectively counters extreme healing situations and gives up a bit of upfront power. Cool. Would really like to see the death of executioners because I think it's too inexpensive and too weak. Or too inexpensive and too easy to apply. I think Morello Nomicon is actually like the system I would like to see where you spend like a lot of gold to like complete something, and then by completing it you get healing reduction. I think as long as Executioners exist in the game where it's 40% minus healing, you can never have a meaningful conversation about amplifying healing reduction because it's too easy to build and too easy to apply. So yeah, I would actually really love to see like maybe just like a healing reduction physical item, but maybe more healing reduction. Or another middle ground is like have Executioners be like a 20 or 30%, and then after that, you can grow it into like a stronger one where like you complete it and it's like 40, 45, 50%. Another actual suggestion I would love to put forward is just have Ignite a lot stronger. I think right now, I don't know how to pull up Ignite like summoners. But I think currently Ignite like reduces more healing. If you could have Ignite like reduce up to 80% or something like that, then maybe Ignite would actually just become a more commonly used and powerful spell. It's under spells. Oh, okay. Cool, perfect. Yeah, so Ignite does... I mean, this is just a tutorial, though. It doesn't give me... it doesn't tell me the amount it reduces the healing dealt, which is just such a riot thing to do, by the way, for me to not be able to look that up in the UI. But I know it does more healing reduction than other things, so maybe just have, like, Ignite be the thing that counters healing. So maybe Ignite is like minus 80% healing received or something like that when you use it. That would be also another good opportunity for stuff. So next is Cooldown Reduction. We're reworking CDR to enable more flexibility in how it is used as a stat and create a clearer build choices. I don't understand that at all, by the way. It doesn't make any sense. While filling the purpose of letting you cast abilities more often, this new stat is called Ability Haste. The reason why I don't understand that is I think CDR right now is flexible in the sense that like you have lots of options to get it. Maybe what they mean is they want less rune emphasis on it and more item emphasis on it. I'm not really sure what that's trying to convey. Ability haste, power stacks linearly. Okay, so this is why this is why like I've been a pretty big advocate, by the way, of running like lucidity boots and the 10% transcendence and like getting CDR as fast as possible. Because I mean, easy math, right? If you have a 10-second cooldown and then you have a 20-second fight, right? If you reduce it by 50%, obviously we're going outside the parameters. If you reduce it by 50%, right, then that means that you cast 4 times more, right? You cast four spells instead of 2, so you technically get 100% efficiency on it. So it actually shows it right here. For example, 50% CDR is 100% more cast. Cool. Also, thank you, Jason, for the Twitch Prime. Really appreciate the support, and welcome back. Hello, ELO. So yeah, this is why CDR was always really important, is because the closer you get to 40% CDR, the more frequently you cast your spells. 10% CDR is 11% more cast, while 40% CDR is 66% more cast. That's why I've been a pretty big advocate for getting max CDR on like all the enchanters as soon as possible. That's why I value Lucidity Boots so much. Okay, so ability haste equals 10% more ability cast, 20%, 30%, 34%. Okay, so basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it so it doesn't have exponential scaling. It like makes sense, right? It gives you the CDR. So main concerns I would have with this is just implementation. I think conceptually it's a cool concept, just to have more like visibility, 30 is 30%, etc. But the problem that I have with this is number one, the biggest problem is I think at the start it's going to be really confusing for most people. If you've ever taken a break and you come back, because CDR makes sense for like what it is, right? You've kind of like you've cultivated an audience that understands that like 40% CDR is what you're always aiming for and 40% is good. Maybe they don't fully understand the contextualization of 40 equals 66%, but they understand that they want to get 40%, right? Whereas this might not make as much sense to them. Also, my biggest concern about it is implementation of like what is 10% haste? How do I get 10% haste? Are certain items going to have way more haste than other items? Because a big complaint that I would have just in general for the game is that I think that items are too efficient. They give you too many stats and cover too many things. Really easy example of this is Ludens, right? Ludens gives you a mana, it gives you your mana problems, it gives you ability power, and it gives you CDR. It covers like all the, it hits all the sweet spots for one item buy. So I have concerns about like maybe what happens in this changes is just it's more visually understandable, but like we still have the same problems with CDR, which is that CDR just makes you cast too many times. That's my biggest issue. You get too many casts off in a game. I would much rather have longer cooldowns that have more meaningful impact on a game. The conversation of CDR to haste won't be 1-to-1, obviously, because that would be a flat nerf. Yeah, so this is like my concern, right, is I don't understand how you convert this, but I think if you implement it correctly, it could make visually like it more sense. Worth noting that armor, MR, attack speed, and most other stats in the game already scale this way. True, most stats already scale this way, but you forgot your most important stat in the entire game that you actually predicate an entire archetype off of, which is crit. So I wonder, this leads me to another question, because this is how I think crit should work, okay? I think if you have 50% crit, then every time you auto, you stack 50 crit, and then you expend it. So, for example, right, you know how, like, when you energize on a character, and you're moving around and you're autoing, and then you hit 100, and then you release? I think crit should work that way, too, where I think that crit should be an energizing effect. You have 50% crit, you have 50% crit, you auto-attack once, you get 50%. You auto-attack the next time, it hits 100, and it expends it. And that's how that's how I would like to see crit work in the future. Because right now, crit is a random factor, and it scales too exponentially. Because, you know what I mean? If you have 75 or 100%, then you're critting every time. But when you have 50%, sure, like if you attack someone 100 times, you know what I mean? It ends up being a 2-to-1 conversion, but that's not like the case a lot of the times. As the biggest issue that we run into is it's just not the case consistently wise. Because if you hit someone 3 times, right? That's easy. You could easily crit them 3 times. It's totally it's not unreasonable. Or you can crit them 0 times. Okay, ability haste is uncapped. Well, of course, but like you're never gonna be able to hit the numbers that you could hit here. Most likely, if they're gonna uncap it, then like clearly they've looked at like what happens if you only go ability haste and like how your character works. This might also be pretty cool, by the way, if they really retool items correctly, where you could potentially like be a champion that just plays for CDR rather than ability power. That'd be cool. Like you're like a cycler, you know what I mean? Like you cycle spells. Yeah, we're co-streaming after I go over this a little bit. Okay, Tenacity. Tenacity is unique and useful. Oh, main thing of Tenacity is they're gonna make Tenacity affect knockup durations, but this is like another thing that like I was talking about when it came to like there's too much power in the runes. This rune right here is just not healthy for the game, which is Legends Tenacity. It just gives you too much tenacity for it, so I hope that with this change right here, they also look at nerfing or removing Legends Tenacity. Tenacity reducing knockups finally. I think this is potentially a good, for clarity purpose, change, but I have concerns about the fact that a lot of champions that are designed around knockups, not getting compensations for it. So that's like a big concern, right? Like maybe Alistar is literally just unplayable next patch because like your combos just don't last at all. But yeah, I think it should be. You know what I mean? I don't think knockups should not be affected by Tenacity. Jungle items. Jungle items will be a starter item that requires no additional investment. Junglers should be able to get these stats and resources bonuses they need from the item so they can immediately start working on the rest of their build. This is terrible, by the way. Marksmen junglers are already super broken, and having them start with like an acquirable like smite is not healthy for the game. We're still working out the details, like how you can acquire a oh, okay, maybe it's a little bit different. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to create a super sustained jungle item. I think this is super bad in general because I think that just means that junglers just take no damage from the camps, right? So big concern is if you have the vamp from the talisman and you have the machete at the same time, junglers will probably clear camps too fast. Or like have too much innate sustain. So I think you're gonna experience some problems with this in the patch where they either overtune jungle camps that do too much damage to compensate, or junglers don't take enough damage and they're just ganking you the whole time. Either way, I think this is a really bad decision and super unhealthy, most likely. This has the potential to be really problematic. Marksman items. More strategic choices. Marksmen currently suffer from the too many that's because you make crit. Crit becomes crit's too much of like a demand item, and because like we discussed before where I said crit is exponential, you want to get to 100% crit like as close as possible, because if you're 50%, you could hit someone 3 times and technically never crit, right? So that's their fault, like straight up. Either you retool crit so that it's more consistent, or you delete crit. That's also another option, by the way. You could delete crit. But I think that's, then you would probably get into a scenario where you'd have to probably make range-specific items, because otherwise you just have Rivens using, like, items that have 150 AD, right? And then you just run into a bunch of other problems with melee carries. Agency options. A very common issue with Marksman's report is that they are powerful but overly team reliant. I mean, that's fine. I don't think anything about that is not a big deal. That is not a big deal for a certain archetype to be team reliant. They're a glass cannon. Overall, we think that this fundamental and healthy island. Yeah, I think this is. I actually don't agree with them. I think that it's fine. Either you have to give up a bunch of power on 80 carries where like you do way less damage. Or like you can do a ton of damage, but you need teams. I don't think that you should be. I don't think you should have both. It's just not fair. Another thing to note too is the main reason why 80 carries feel like this right now is because of the fact that dragons are so reliant, and you usually end up team fighting around 15 to 18 minutes, which is over the third dragon, which in most cases means that you only have one item, which also ties back to the same conversation we just basically had, which is that crit's a huge problem. You need too much crit on your character. More impactful with one item. I mean, Stormrazor was supposed to solve this, but then they nerfed Stormrazor a bunch of times because they felt like it solved it too much. Just saying. We still want Marksmans to be the class that is defined by late game carry potential, but we're shifting the stats on their first buy slightly so they feel more competitive at class at one item. I'm telling you, if you redo crit where it's a stacking buff, you'll find that you actually have that you erode most of those problems. Some games and matchups make marksmen feel like they're missing an item for what they need. Yeah, I mean, that's totally fine. You should actually... I think it's super good that 80 carries have to actively decide between items. Go 100% crit, but maybe you don't have lifesteal. Get a Merc Scimitar, but then you don't have the crit. Or, like, buy a GA so you're tankier to physical damage, but now you can't buy them all. I don't think anything is wrong with that. I think their approach to 80 carries in general is super flawed. I don't agree with most of what they said here. Mage items. Mages today suffer from a set of first items that don't have clear trade-offs and situational purposes. That's because you kept nerfing them, just so you know. We'd like mages to have the same rich choices on their first items. Really? Because I would have said that mage first items right now are just a must-buy because of how broken you make the items. Like, the 20% mana regen, like, AP items are just so empowering and overtuned that there just isn't first item choice because you've just made it clear that you have to buy that item first. Artillery mages, ability haste is a choice. With the rework of cooldown reduction to ability haste, we can use the stat to create another decision point in mage builds. Okay, so I was talking about this a little bit earlier where like maybe you start stacking all of the haste stuff. AP fighters, AP assassins. I think Lilia has shown us that basically outside of Leandri's Rylai's, you have no AP items. So they're trying to make more AP items, which I think is good. Bridge into tank or pure AP later. I think this is a little bit concerning for champions like Galio. The Galio might be overtuned because of that. So that is one thing to note, is that a lot of champions currently are designed without these tools in mind. So just need to be careful of that. 80 fighter items. I think 80 fighter items are absolutely imbalanced right now. I think fighters today have one-size-fits-all defensive options in Sterix Gauge or Death Stands. Yeah, and those items are absolutely not fair. They are super overpowered. Regardless of whether the team has more physical or magic damage. Wow, who would have thought? Want to expand the fighter-specific defensive items to give some more specialization. Cool, really easy change, right? Sterix Gauge, only physical damage shield. That was hard. I don't know why Sterix Gauge isn't the physical version of magic. Actually, it's kind of funny to see this because we actually see this parity with the archetype of Elder Dragon versus Baron. Remember how Baron does magic, makes you take increased magic damage and does a magic damage AoE, but we never see that in the physical form for the dragons, as I suggested. Same problem. Could just easily change Sterix Gauge to a physical shield. Boom, you've already created more diversity. And then I would just gut Death Stance. Death Stance is a mistake. This item just basically creates like too much of a power dynamic where either your champion can build Death Stance and it feels really good, or champion can't build Death Stance, or you can't get the gold to it, and then it just feels like shit. Core item diversity. Core item fighter items like Black Cleaver and Trinity bring out fighter builds, but there aren't decisions being made by fighters early in their build. That's not true. Blade of the Rune King's another option on the table. I actually super disagree with that too. 80 assassin items. 80 assassin items are an abomination. Having Banshee's like effect really ruined like a lot of supports that were supposed to be anti-assassin champions. I had a real big problem whenever they introduced Edge of Night. I think that's a really bad item to be in the game. Tank items, more options to adapt to team strategy. We actually had this, but the problem is that utility items were deemed too powerful, and if any support item gets used as a tank item, then it's deemed too overpowered. You actually had more options on tanks when items like Locket, Redemption, and Righteous Glory were available, and they actually gutted all of those because they didn't like people using what they deemed tank support items. So that was actually a real interesting thing. Enhanced tank utility. Tanks create value for the team by being immovable damage soaks while also providing CC and other utility. We wanted to create more items to showcase the utility attributes of tanks. Oh, you know what would be actually really great is you could make you could actually make tanks increase their CC or increase their like tanky stats by an exponential amount, like a death cap version, at the expense of damage. You know how Gargoyle Stoneplate, when you activate it, it makes you do reduced damage? You could actually do that with items and actually make late game tanks do a lot of tankiness, but actually just do no damage. There you go. Real easy path, actually, for those kinds of things. More enchanter items. More options for build variety. The current enchanter item ecosystem is dominated by a few items that outshine other options. Well, yeah, there's only a couple of enchanter items in the entire game. There's like 4 of them. Of course, 3 of them get used every game. There's only 4 or 5 of them. What the heck? Solve active overload. Oh, I really disagreed with this when I read this. I think that supports in general have higher skill expression ceilings when there are more items that you can use well. I think Mikhail's is a great example of this. That being said, I understand that the majority of their player base isn't very smart and isn't very good. So because of this and because people are bad at the game, item activates get taken away, which is why I think items like Ardent are very boring items because they just work with your kit instantly and there's no thought process. I think that's unhealthy for the game. A couple of items fall into the good at everything category. Well, yeah, I mean, you buff the crap out of Athene, so like that's just how it is. Okay. I mean, overall on this, I would say that their direction for some of their archetypes is good. I think their understanding of 80 carries is bad. In general, I can't believe there's no conversation about crit at all in the 80 carry conversation. That really bothers me. Yeah, there's way too much healing. They should have Conqueror is a mistake. Death Stance isn't healthy for the game, etc. I'm kind of interested to see how they implement ability haste with new items. It makes me a little scared, but at the same time, like, kind of excited. Maybe ability haste will be another stat that, like, enchanter supports can go for in the future. Just to have, like, more CDR. Like, I think, like, a champion like Sona, wow, so much haste so that you can just, like, spam your spells and stuff like that. Overall, I'm hopeful for the thing. I think items have needed an overhaul for a long time. I'm just scared they're going to mess it up because I don't really have a lot of faith in their decision making when it comes to stuff, since the outline here seems to be missing a lot of things. But anyway, hope you guys found this video helpful. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment in the section below, and hit that bell and whistle, and I'll see you next time. Peace.